You ever ask the question, does God see me? Well, I certainly have in times in my life where I felt overwhelmed in situations, especially in a time when our family was being just attacked on so many levels and our kids were running from the Lord. I really wondered if, after really years of praying through this journey, does God see me? And maybe you're right there today and you wonder if God sees you. Well, I love this story when Jesus is actually calling his disciples to himself. He's going around and he's meeting them and calling them by name. And one of the disciples, his name is Nathanael. We don't hear a lot about Nathanael, but we do hear this moment when Jesus comes to him and calls him and asks Nathanael to follow him. And in John 1, verse 50 he says, I saw you, Nathanael, while you were under the fig tree. Before you saw me, I saw you. Nathanael wasn't looking for Jesus. He was actually just sitting under a fig tree. And Jesus said, oh, I know exactly where you are. I saw you before you even saw me. You see, he saw Nathanael. He knew everything about Nathanael. He knew where he was, and he knew of Nathanael's doubts. You see, we learn later on in the story that Nathanael, he was doubting. He was lacking faith. He didn't actually believe that Jesus was the Messiah. But Jesus wasn't surprised by his questions. He wasn't surprised by where he was in his heart, because Jesus saw him. He knew right where he was, and he knew the condition of his heart. You know what? Jesus, he knew right where I was. He knew right where I was in the journey of our family, and he knew the condition of my heart. And he sees you today. He sees right where you are, and he knows your questions and your struggle. He knows what's in your heart. You know, I have a few fig trees in my life. The fig trees in my life, they might represent a place of comfort or control. I mean, I just like sitting under them. You know, whether it's a tree of accomplishment or busyness or a tree of striving to keep like everything under control, sometimes that tree might just be a place of rest or protection from the storm. But you know what? He sees you. He knows what you're sitting under. And you know what else? He has a new name for you, because as he calls his disciples, he goes from Nathanael and he goes to Peter, and he says, Peter, your name, it's going to change. You only know yourself as Peter, but I know you as the rock, as Cephas, not because of who he was at the time, but of who he was going to be. You know, my name's Lorie. It's really just plain Lorie. And if you look in the meaning of Lorie, it's kind of pathetic because in Britain it means a truck. I mean, who wants to be called a truck? But you know, as I looked into the name of Lorie, it actually spiritually means victorious spirit. Well, I was not living in a place of victorious spirit. I was under my fig tree, curled up in the fetal position, just angry and desperate for God and for release from my struggle. But Jesus says, I see you. And I see you not only where you are, but I see who you really are. And I'm going to call you out by your true name. You're not a truck. You're a victorious spirit. And you are going to live a victorious life. You know, he whispered to me my true name. Jesus comes to you. He knows exactly where you are, and he knows what your real name is. And he is calling out your real name. Do you want to know what he thinks of you? Would you take time and would you just welcome his invitation to come to you? And would you even today, in quiet, in solitude, would you say, Lord Jesus, tell me who I really am? You know, he loves to tell us who we really are, to remind us of not where we are today, but where we're going to be in the future. So I'm just so thankful that Jesus comes and finds us under our fig trees. And I just say, let him tell you who you really are, and let's live up to our names. I'm Lorie Hartshorn.